Welcome back to the upper tier, folks. This is the Morning Brew coming to you live from the sunny southeast of Ireland, Wicklow, the garden of Ireland. Lovely morning out there, fresh rain overnight though and stuff like that. So again, we're doing the episode inside today, and a few bits to talk about. Not a huge amount happening, quite a tight pool of players involved in this transfer window at the moment. If you think about it, if you look at all the players that have been linked with teams and stuff like that, especially in the Premier League, how many team players are we talking about? 12, maybe 13 players constantly in the news, revolving all the time. But let's begin anyway. United looks like they're in serious trouble at the moment. Kind of a mess there with this takeover continually dragging on and on and on. Obviously the news of David De Gea maybe heading out to Saudi Arabia has caused problems within Ten Hag's transfer budget as well. Now having to look for a goalkeeper. There's talk of a bid being prepared somewhere in the region of 45 million. Let that sink in, folks. 45 million potentially for Jordan Pickford. Absolutely crazy. I mean, if you think the Mason Mount stuff is crazy, just have a look at that for a transfer as well, if that was to happen. We're hearing that Luke Shaw is kind of acting like an agent during this international break with England, trying to convince players that Man United is the place to go. We know that Eric Ten Hag is extremely frustrated, missing out on a number of key targets at the moment, or how it looks anyway. Kim Min-jae looks like he's on his way to Bayern Munich. He was a major target for them. Obviously Liverpool signing McAllister. We know United were having conversations there as well. They've stalled now out of the picture probably for Kane and for Victor Osimhen as well, now looking at the boy Hoyland. So again, looking at targets, secondary, third, fourth kind of targets now at the moment. Never a great recipe, and surely a manager very, very frustrated at the way the takeover. This should have been done by now. It's just dragging on. The Glazers again trying to squeeze that last bit of juice out of the club before they pull the trigger. Also, not great news as well with Maguire and McTominay and Martial and players like this not potentially wanting to go anywhere, not looking at any moves and stuff like that. So it's kind of a real dilemma for Ten Hag as well, because by not moving these players out, he can't bolster his transfer budget as well. We know they had been interested in Rice as well, but some of these bigger moves, bigger transfers and stuff like that, really very difficult to see how they can go through in light of the ownership situation. And by the time that's all resolved, will they have enough time to go back in, or will these targets be gone? We know that they want the boy Caicedo as well, heavily linked with Chelsea, working on it as well. Also Arsenal were very interested. But could United run out of time, and by the time things are sorted, could a lot of these targets already have been signed up to other clubs? They seem to be looking at players and requesting just give us time, hold fire and stuff like that, but we know players like to get things sorted out pretty early so they can move into their new clubs, have a full pre-season and adjust to their new surroundings. So this is going to be a real problem going forward, but let's see what happens. Brendan Rodgers back up north again, moving back to Celtic. Had a fantastic time up there, really, really successful. But looks like he's heading back north again to Celtic in a big deal, a long-term deal apparently that's been put in place. I believe Dermot Desmond was heavily involved in this as well. This sounds like a good move for Brendan. He needs to probably decompress out of the Premier League and stuff like that. Under a lot of pressure there towards the latter end of Leicester and stuff like that, and then had to move on. So back to Celtic again, relaunched the career, and let's see how it goes. Arsenal are preparing revised bids for Rice and also for Kai Havertz. Interesting when we talk about Chelsea. We're going to talk about them in a bit, but it's a really interesting one. I've had lots of conversations with Ian, who'll be fairly on track with Chelsea and stuff like that, but it's a very, very strange one. But yeah, Arsenal revised bids coming in. We should see them this week. They probably get Rice over the line by the end of this week by the looks of things. A new bid coming in, something in the region of 101 million. Let's see if that gets Rice out of West Ham. Obviously the first bid for Kai Havertz as well was turned down, so revised bid needs to go in there as well. Chelsea really holding fire on what they want for these players at a time when they're in a very, very difficult bind at the moment. But let's see how that goes. Sky Sports going through a revamp. We're hearing, of course, Peter Drury's going to take over from Martin Tyler, was announced yesterday. Jeff Stelling, of course, has moved on. Jeff Shreves looks like he's going to move on as well. Some of these people who are intertwined, if you like, in our footballing TV coverage over the last 15, 20, 25 years and stuff like that. But we're also hearing potentially that 13 others could move on as well. No doubt kind of in the match coverage kind of area and stuff like that. So let's see what happens. Our football coverage on Sky Sports could look very different next season. but let's see how that goes. One of the disappointing transfers for me looks like it's coming through. We heard about it yesterday. I dropped a short on it on the channel, but Ruben Neves moving to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. The deal is 47 million. No doubt there's a very good wage and attractive bonuses attached to that as well. But real disappointing to see a top midfielder like this guy, you know, turning his back on the Premier League, going to Saudi Arabia. No disrespect to Saudi Arabia, but I thought that boy would have had a hell of a lot to still prove. He was linked with Barcelona, of course he was linked with Liverpool, he was linked with United, he was linked with Arsenal, Chelsea, he was linked with all the top teams. So the question for you guys out there this morning, let me know in the comments, should Ruben Neves have continued his career in European football and maybe getting some silverware and all that kind of stuff with plenty of time in the tank to then eventually move to Saudi Arabia? Or when these offers come in, are they just too good to turn down? Let us know your thoughts on that one, but him leaving the Premier League for me is really, really disappointing. Such an exciting midfield player. Shame that that's where he's going and he didn't continue his career in Europe. Kyle Walker, this was an interesting one, came out of nowhere. When we talk about Pep being ruthless and going to reinvent the team again, we know a number of Man City players, although they achieved the treble this year, are looking at changes. Ilkay Gundogan might be going out the door, Bernardo Silva might be heading to PSG, Kyle Walker potentially in advanced stages of heading potentially to Bayern Munich. So it just goes to show, this is the recipe for success. Don't ever stand still on your successes. You got to keep on reinventing yourself all the time. It's been the biggest problem in my own club, Liverpool. Just stood still when we were successful instead of moving on, evolving all the time and getting better. Man City are very clever at doing this. But Kyle Walker potentially on his way in advanced talks with Bayern Munich. Newcastle are continuing their talks with Nicolo Barella. I think the 50 million bid that went in, I think interviewed it nearly as kind of an insult. I think they're going to be looking for 70 up on this one, but let's see what happens. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how Newcastle are operating in the market and stuff like that. I mean, you know, most teams know that they have the money there, so a 50 million bid for Nicolo Barella, I'm sure Inter would have seen that as a little bit divisive, if you like. Just very, very strange and stuff like that. My thinking is it's going to be 75 to get Nicolo Barella out of Inter Milan, and that's even if they want to move the guy on. But interesting from Newcastle out there. Also linked with a move for Marco Cucurella off Chelsea, which is going to be really, really interesting. He's going to be available potentially at a cut price, or will Chelsea stand firm on their pricing like they're doing with Mount and Kai Havertz? But let us know your thoughts as well. Chelsea, I've been talking to Ian about this, we were only talking yesterday. Looks like it's going to be a very different looking Chelsea side coming into the new season. And we're obviously hearing of Koulibaly being linked with a move to Al Hilal as well for 25 million. You know, let us see, Marco Cucurella linked with Newcastle. You know, we've got Mount, Havertz, all these players, Kovacic, all moving out and stuff like that. We're going to see a very different Chelsea side at the start of the season under Mauricio Pochettino. But let us know your thoughts, folks. This has been the Morning Brew. Hope you're enjoying the morning shows. If you are, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, drop a like on the video as well, share the content. As always, audio versions of the show you'll get on Spotify, Google Podcasts and Amazon Music as well, if that is your preference. And we will talk to you again real soon.